Okay, guys, happy Tuesday. Happy December 30th. So we've got one more day, day and a half before the new year. And I'm just going to give it a second to connect because we're going to wait till it connects on Facebook. Okay, we're good there. Let's set that up. And we'll connect on Instagram. Okay, and I believe we are set. Okay, perfect. We are on. Great, guys. So as I was saying, happy last few days of 2025. I can't believe we're already coming up to 2026. Crazy, crazy. Feels like this year has flown by. And if you're able to tune in live, I'm glad that you're able to be here. And if you're watching the replay, same thing. Glad you're able to join in. And chances are, if you're tuning into this, just given the title, you're not here because you lack discipline or motivation, but you really want to, sorry guys, let me just set this up here. Okay, there, that way I can see myself. Okay, it was on my other screen. But yeah, if you're here and you're watching this, you already know how to work hard, and you're here because you care. And you care about how you show up in your life. And most importantly, you're not interested in staying the same version of yourself going into 2026. So if you're watching this, you're somebody who wants to keep evolving. You want to do it in a way that's smarter, more aligned with who you want to become, and you want to do it in a way that's not going to add more pressure or force another reset. So, for those who are new here, and we haven't met yet, I'm Alexis, and I'm a biologist and founder of Flexus Fitness. And the way I look at things is a bit different, especially when it comes to the new year, New Year's resolutions, which we'll talk about today. Over the last 10 years, I've worked with over 1,000 high-performing women, executives, leaders, mothers, women who are used to putting in a lot of effort, who are used to and very comfortable with solving problems and figuring things out. And what I've seen over and over again over the years is that most of them aren't stuck because they're inconsistent or not motivated or lazy. They're stuck because they keep applying more effort to strategies that no longer fit where their body is at, no longer fit where their life is at, no longer take into account, life coming up, like how to navigate different things. And they assume that if something isn't working, the answer is to try harder, right? They got to push harder. They got to tighten up. They got to be more disciplined. And it's natural to think that way, especially as a high performer, but when life gets fuller, when there's more responsibility, when there's more pressure, more demand, that approach stops working. So when it comes to planning a new year, I don't believe in starting with resolutions. I don't believe in, I believe in looking at it in terms of patterns. And look, I have nothing wrong with New Year's resolutions. So there's nothing wrong with that. It could give you that motivation, that boost that, you're looking to achieve something. But as you'll see in today's training, the way that I like to break it down comes more from a place of setting outcomes, so things that you want to achieve, and going about it in a way that setting intentions. The way that I look at it and the way that I view it is that, if I ever want to change something in my life, I could change it at any point throughout the year, right? It could be a random Tuesday in February. It could be a random Thursday in August. If I want to change something about my life or about who I want to become, I could do at any point of the year. I don't need to wait for the new year to become that person. So that's what I want to talk about in today's, Instagram is pausing due to connection. Hopefully, okay, we're back on Instagram. So that's what I want to talk about today is that, it's about looking at patterns, looking at data from the last few years, even, or at least from 2025, and with an honest look at what worked for you in 2025, what didn't, without beating yourself up about it, and looking at those patterns, that data, and then looking at if you want a different experience in 2026, how are you going to go about that? You don't need a fresh start. You just need a better strategy, a different way of going about it, a different way of thinking about it, one that matches the life that you want to live and who you want to become. So that's why I want to walk you through today. So before we'll just get right into it. And if you're watching live, if you're here, let me know. If you're watching on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, our Facebook group, let me know if you're able to see me. And we're going to dive right into it. So before we talk about 2026, we need to talk about 2025. Okay, guys, like this is the part that most people skip. And it's also the reason why they end up with the same goals year after year, just written in a notebook or just stashed away on a post it, right? And we've been conditioned to believe that progress comes from only looking forward, right? Only looking in the future. A lot of people have been conditioned that when they set a goal, they just need to look at like what they want to work towards, right? And real progress, I truly believe, starts from studying what has already happened. I'm just going to take business because that's an easy analogy to use. But let's say you were running a business, right? And you wouldn't want to plan the next year without reviewing your processes from this year, without reviewing the numbers. You'd want to look at what worked, what didn't, where you're overstimulated, where you overestimated things, where you were under prepared with things. And that's where, when planning your life, it deserves that same level of strategy and that same type of thinking. So when you're looking at 2025 as a whole, I want you to ask yourself a few honest questions. And like these are just ideas. You might have other things that pop into your mind, but just some things to get you thinking in terms of what happened this past year. So answer these without, like, just not coming from a place of shame or judgment, just really pure honesty, right? So on a piece of paper, you could write down what worked for me this past year. Then you can write down what didn't work, right? But what didn't work and you kept doing, right? Because that's something that I see often with women too, is like, oh, like they spend year after year just thinking that they need to be more consistent with something when clearly it's not working for them, right? So what worked for you this past year? What didn't work and why? Like, why did you keep doing it? Where did you rely on motivation instead of structure? What do you already know is affected for you, but you haven't changed yet? So again, questions like that, they're not about coming from a place of shame or beating yourself up. It's just about taking ownership and looking at, okay, like how have I been thinking? What has been my process? This is about taking responsibility, right? Which is actually very great. And here clearly, if you achieved less than half of the goals that you set this year, it doesn't automatically mean that you weren't disciplined enough. Okay. But it does mean one of the two things. Either the strategy didn't match your current reality, or you weren't willing to build your life around what you said mattered and stepping into that version of yourself who is going to achieve that. Both of these things are fixable, but only if you're honest about which one it was, right? Whether it was the strategy matching what you needed and your current reality, or whether it was your ability to step into that version of yourself that is going to achieve that goal. So just those are more like just an overview of questions that you could ask yourself. Now, there's a few steps that I take into account when I'm reviewing the year. So, and when I'm planning my future year. So the first step is I want you to look at the past year in terms of key areas. And the way, like, these are just categories that I personally look at, and I think it applies to everybody. So I have one category for career slash business, a financial category, a health category, and then a relationship slash family category, a personal development category, and a spiritual category. I didn't come up with I haven't planned it out yet. I'm going to spend probably on the first and second just planning it out. But basically, you could take a sheet of paper, and in retrospect, it would have been good if I had it all worked up. But anyways, you could take a piece of paper, and in each category, like I like to separate it in these 6 different categories, and then I'll just create boxes. You could do it however you want. You could, write it down and then write the points next to it. But basically, for each of those categories, I like to make like boxes. So career slash business, financial, health, relationships and family, spiritual, and personal development. And in each one, I like to ask myself those 3 questions. What went well? What didn't go well? And what was within my control that I didn't fully take ownership of? So that allows me to reflect on these categories from last year before planning my goals in those categories for this year. And just that allows you again to look at patterns. And as a biologist, I like to look at that, the data, the patterns, and the patterns that I could build up from this previous year, or the patterns that I don't want to repeat, right? So most people think going into the new year that they need goals, and they don't really need to be clear. Well, being clear with your goals is one thing, but it's really about having clear behavior around those goals. Your goal is an outcome, and it's really about the actions that you take that matter to get to that outcome, right? So the way that I like to look at it is your goal is your outcome, and then you have intentions, which are behaviors that you're willing to repeat. And if you're not willing to repeat those behaviors, then it just becomes a wish, right? It doesn't actually become a plan. So this is where most planning breaks down, because somebody just says like, oh, I'll just take weight loss as an example. Like I want to lose 30 pounds this year, but then there's no intentions that are attached to that outcome. So that's what we're going to talk about next. But before you look at your future goals, you need to look at the patterns from this previous year and what needs to be improved. So that's what I like to do first. On one sheet of paper, list all of that out and those questions that I just said and the ones I said before. And then I create a new piece of paper. And on that paper, so on that one, basically, I like to list out the year. So I go like 2026, and then I'll say like at the top, I'll give the year a name. Last year, it was the year of expansion. That's what I called 2025. This year, I'll just give you guys some examples. It might be like the alignment, or the year I stop overcomplicating things, because I have a tendency of doing that. For some of you, it might be the year of follow through. Whatever resonates with you, you'd want to write the year and then give it a title. The reason why I like to do that is because, again, it just sends the intention of how I want to walk into this year. And also it allows me like every month or every quarter to kind of look back and remind myself of that overall intention that I set for myself. Now, with that, you want your goals, right? Like I said, your goals are your outcome. And then we really want to think in terms of intentions, not resolutions. So just a few examples I'll give you just to kind of like explain the difference. So let's say your goal is you want to save, I don't know, X amount of money, whatever, how much money you want to save this year. Okay. So you want to save X amount of money this year. That would be your goal. That would be the outcome you want for yourself. But then your intention has to be a behavior associated with that outcome, right? So how are you going to save that money? Well, maybe that looks like reviewing your finances on the same day every month and seeing where you are. Maybe that looks like if you get paid, let's say like every 2 weeks, you're putting a portion of that paycheck and it automatically gets directly deposited into your savings account. Whatever the case, you have a behavior attached to that. Or let's say your goal is you want to work out 3 times a week. Then the intention behind that would be to protect that time, right? And make sure that you're scheduling in that time. And it could look like protecting that time for movement, because you know it affects everything else, right? It affects your decision making, your ability to process, how you show up for those you care to love. So it might look like, okay, I'm gonna set every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those are gonna be the 3 days a week. If I miss one, bonus day will be on Sunday, and that will be like my flexible day, whatever the case. So that would be the intention. Let's say your goal is to reduce stress this year. Then your intention would look like something like I stop over committing to things, or saying no faster, or being clear with what I do want to commit to, and not people pleasing, whatever the case. Like you need to have that behavior, right? So intentions tell you what to do on a random Tuesday, like I said before, right? What's your intention? Goals aren't going to tell you what to do. So it's very important to have both. So on that piece of paper, with 2026, the year of, let's just say, alignment, just for the sake of it for now, that's where you want to plan across your life, not in silos. And that's why on that piece of paper, I like to just separate it into different categories, different boxes, because I truly believe everything in your life is connected, right? So you don't get better health without better time management and boundaries. You don't get better focus without managing your stress. You don't get better results without respecting your capacity. So instead of just planning in isolation, we want to focus on planning across your life, across the year. And this is where immediately what I see for a lot of people and what I used to fall into, the pattern I used to fall into is immediately just wanting to do too much, right? And this is where I'm going to ask you to do the opposite. So on that 1-page game plan that you're saying for yourself, give that title, list the categories. So again, if you're tuning in now, career/business, financial, health, relationships, personal development, and spiritual. And each of those categories, choose no more than 3 intentions. Okay. So 3 goals and then the intentions behind that. So I shouldn't have said 3 intentions, 3 goals, 3 goals for each, and then an intention for each of those goals. If you choose more than that, I honestly truly believe that you're setting yourself up for failure. And the reason is because a lot of people think, oh, the more goals I set for myself this year, the more ambitious I am. But that actually leads to you overcommitting. And then if you overcommit, you eventually avoid committing at all. You avoid committing as a whole. So make it digestible, make it manageable. If you achieve those 3 goals before the year is done, great. You could set new goals, right? Again, you don't have to wait till the new year until if to do this, right? You could do this at any point. You could do this at the 6-month mark of the year once you've already achieved all those goals. So just start in a way that's digestible for you. Now, for each of those categories, you want to choose the goal, the outcome that you care about. And for each one, you want to set those that intention, right? So again, maximum goals for that category. And it could be 1. Like again, I'm just saying like 3 is the max. And those are the intentions have to be behaviors that you're willing to repeat consistently. And I'm going to give you guys some examples just so that you could see like the difference behind being specific with it. And I want you to notice how specific these examples are, because that specificity removes decision fatigue. And that's why this works long-term. So let's say for health, let's say the first category. So let's say for your outcome, for example, you want to, let's just take again, losing body fat, it's just easier because it's tangible. Okay. So let's say you want to lose 20 pounds. I want to lose 20 pounds and increase energy. I don't want to feel inflamed, exhausted, or second guessing myself. So you see how specific that is? It's like yes, you want to lose the weight, but it's more about the feeling as well and how you want to feel at that point, at the goal, right? Or your goal could be, I want to feel strong, clear-headed, capable in my body. Or it could be, I want to run a 5K. I want to run a marathon. I want to do a triathlon, whatever the case. Now you have that goal and then you have your intentions. So what will you consistently do to get there? So let's say for the purpose of the weight loss, okay, and the fat loss goal, you might say, I'm going to strength train 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Workouts are going to be scheduled, not optional. Or I'm going to focus on eating, 25 to 30 grams of protein at each meal. Or I'm going to drink half my body weight in ounces daily. So these have to be super, super specific. And these are behaviors that you could see yourself doing consistently. And then you could always, again, add on to those. So let's say that's for health. Now let's say for career, for business. Let's say the outcome is maybe you want to work towards a promotion, or maybe you're considering a career change, or maybe you're considering starting a business, right? So just be specific about it. So let's say I want to, let's just take promotion. So I want to hit this next level without, and I want to grow into that position without burning out and by performing well without feeling constantly behind, whatever the case. Okay. Like, again, like I can't really, it's personal, but then that if you want to achieve that and you want to work towards, again, stepping into that different version of yourself, who's going to get that promotion, what does that look like? So reverse engineer, maybe it's going to look like planning your work week on Sundays, right? So that you're able to block time for deep work before meetings, and before other things get scheduled over it. Or maybe it looks like having some time to just think and process things. So shutting down your email or muting notifications. Um, it could look like being super specific about it. Like you give yourself an hour and a half a week, or you give yourself blocks throughout the day where you just let yourself be in complete silence and just think. It might look like investing in yourself, right? So let's say you want to start a business, or you do have a business and you want to invest in new skills, right? So maybe that looks like I invest in one skill per quarter that directly supports my this next level version of myself, my next level leadership or income. Even if you're working, like you're looking to move up in your career, that could look like I want to really dial in this one skill every quarter, whether that's investing in a course, whether that's investing in books, investing time reading about it, right? And just really making the most out of that quarter to get really good at that one skill. Whatever the case, those are your intentions. So you see how there's a specific behavior attached to it. Let's say personal development. So let's say the outcome for personal development is I want to get better at decision making. I want to be more confident how I show up overall. So then the intentions behind that could look like, okay, well, I'm gonna intentionally spend time with people who are ahead of me. I'm going to put myself in rooms with people who make me feel uncomfortable, but whether that's a mentor, whether that's a coach, whether that's your peer group. And again, being specific about it, right? So you're going to do that at least once a month, at least once a quarter. Maybe that looks like auditing your inputs, right? So what are you listening to in terms of podcasts, content, conversations you're having with people, removing anything that reinforces the idea that you're not capable of achieving what you set your mind to, right? So again, being super, super specific with that. On the spiritual side of things. So, and when I say spiritual, I mean I don't mean abstract, and spiritual could be taken in many different ways, right? But I mean, is capacity to respond to things, right? And so let's say the outcome would be like, I want to feel grounded and steady instead of reactive or emotionally hijacked, right? So maybe that looks like every weekday morning, you sit quietly for 5 minutes with no phone, no, notifications, no multitasking. And even if your mind feels busy, you just you just sit with that, right? And then eventually move up to 10 minutes. Maybe it looks like at the end of every workday, you physically shut your laptop and take 3 slow deep breaths, and you say it to yourself out loud, like, work is done for the day. No checking your emails, no checking notifications, and then you move on. Or maybe it looks like I will journal for 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, whatever the case. Like there's different ways of going about it. For some people, it might be like, I want to start meditating 5 minutes a day, whatever the case. But once you have these clear outcomes, and once you see these intentions this clearly, the next question becomes obvious. And the next question you should always ask yourself after you've listed all this out is, what has to go for this to actually happen? Because this is where most people, they miss this part, or they stop being honest with themselves, because everybody wants the outcome. And especially at this time of the year, it feels so exciting. You're working toward, like, it's a fresh year, you're working towards something new. Very few people are willing to make the trade. And here's the truth. There's always every meaningful upgrade in your life always requires subtraction, okay? You don't somebody doesn't not achieve what they want because they didn't want it badly enough. They typically don't achieve it because they weren't willing to remove things that compete with it. So as you're working through this, and this is the part that most people avoid, or they just don't know, they're just not aware of it, or they just miss it completely. I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to answer it plainly. What are you willing to stop in 2026? What behaviors can't come with you into that next version of your life in 2026? And what are you still tolerating that may quietly drain your time, your energy, or focus? Because, for example, if you If your calendar doesn't change, your results won't either. If you're feeling like time management is an issue and you're just like, oh, well, I need more time, it's not going to come out of thin air, right? You have to audit what's happening. You have to subtract things off of your calendar. You have to be more efficient with other things on your calendar to make more time, right? If your boundaries don't change, neither will your stress levels. If you keep letting fear get in the way of anything, of decision making, then you won't reach that next level, right? And at the bottom line is, if your standards don't change, your outcomes don't change. So if your intention is to start training 3 times a week, maybe late night net has to go, right? Or if you're optimizing your working blocks, then maybe the constant notification checking has to go so that you could actually, get into and really focus. If your goal is to feel more calm and grounded, then finding ways to not be reactive to everything has to go, right? You have to give something up in order to make that change. And that's what true alignment really is. And I want to be really clear here. If you say something matters to you, but your behavior doesn't reflect it, it's not a motivation issue, that's a standards issue, and that starts within yourself. And that's why I keep saying it's so important to audit the year before your belief, because that you don't want to bring that in with you to 2026. So all to say, this is why, like, I like to go about it this way. There's a lot of self-reflection. The one page is great because then you could look back on it throughout the year. And again, this is why I said, like, I say to people no more than 3 outcomes per category, because it's not because I don't believe that you're capable of more, but because fewer of those compound results, right? Focusing, really dialing into one thing compounds into better results, and trying to change everything all at once may feel productive, but it's actually how people end up avoiding committing to anything fully. So high performance don't win by doing more, they win by doing less, better for longer. So once you've written out that 1-page game plan, that's not something you just stash away and forget. And I say that because I have done that some previous years when I first started doing this. You gotta keep it somewhere where you're gonna review it. You're gonna, whether that's at the start of each month, and if you use Asana or you use a time management calendar, you use a physical agenda, in the agenda, review it 1 time a month, or go back every quarter to it. Before, when something feels off in life, like, and you're tempted to just push harder instead of thinking smarter, go back to it, because this page becomes your filter, and it becomes something that you can look back on and say, does this decision that I'm making support the intentions I set for myself, or does it pull me away from them? And that's how you become clear with what you want, and that clarity beats overwhelm. So if you take one thing from this today, let it be this: you don't need a new personality going into 2026. You don't need more discipline. You don't need a full overhaul, a full reset. You need fewer intentions, choosing them, choosing them, being deliberate with how you choose them, and the courage to live in alignment with them. And that's how your year becomes different. That's how 2026 and beyond becomes different. It doesn't become busier, it doesn't become louder, it just becomes more intentional, more effective with what you're focusing on. So take some time this week, and even if you don't do it before the new year, even if it ends up being Monday or next weekend, it's not too late. And that's the beauty of this. Even if you're catching this replay like January 15th and you're like, oh man, I have to wait till next year to do this, don't. Like, do it when you can. Like, at any point throughout the year, you could do this. And take some time, write that 1-page plan, be honest, be specific. Don't negotiate with yourself once you've decided what matters. And that's how progress compounds. And if you're listening to this and you found yourself nodding along and you're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, this is exactly what I want to do, this is exactly how I want to approach 2026, it means that you're ready for more intention, more structure, not more overwhelming information. So use this tool. Support yourself, like, this is a way that you're going to lead yourself into the new year, self-management, and really have that game plan that's built around what you want, your life, your body, your capacity. And if you're looking for more support around this, specifically around your health goals this year, your fitness goals. It's really like, honestly, having that structure and plan is what makes all the difference, right? So if that's something that you're looking for going into the new year, I work with a very small number of women each year who yourself without starting over. And with all of you who are watching, our prices will be increasing for 2026. So anybody who books a call between now and this coming month, January 5th, and you commit to working together, you will be able to lock in the 2025 pricing. So that's not just, I'm not just saying that for like, oh, it's the new year, like get on it. Like, I'm not saying that. It's not about urgency for the sake of urgency, but it's about if you're ready to honor the woman that you say that you keep wanting to step into, and you're ready to decide and move forward intentionally and reach that higher level version of yourself. If that's you, I'd love to have a conversation. Just comment below or message me 2026, and we could look at where you're currently, what where you're currently doing, where you're currently stuck, what's holding you back, what's realistically possible for you for the new year, and whether working together, working with myself, my team actually makes sense and is actually a good idea. So if it does, great. If it doesn't, you'll still leave with a bunch of clarity. So either way, you'll be making a decision, not drifting into another year on just autopilot. So that is it, ladies. Thank you for anybody who was able to tune in live. And if you're watching the replay, thank you as well. And let me know if you have any questions about this. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys later. And looking forward to seeing those behaviors and intentions that you guys come up with. Feel free to share them below. You might inspire other people within our communities. So have a wonderful 2020, last few days of 2025, and wishing you all the best for 2026. Happy New Year, guys. Take care.